Okay, in this video I'm going to walk you through the practice PARCC assessment that we took on Friday, and I'm going to show you how to work out some of the problems. The first thing I want to point out on the cover sheet, which you did a good job, some of you forgot your last name, so remember that on the real thing you will need to have your first and last name on there. Scrolling down, this is the same directions page that's in your packet. The biggest issue that I saw with the directions was several of you filled in the bubbles down here, but skipped the spaces up at the top. Remember that in order for your answer to count, they have to be filled in both places. You can't just do one or the other. We did not have any issues with decimal points, so good job on that. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do here is pull out this whiteboard and see if I can get it split screen with the questions and whiteboard. Apparently that's not going to work, so I'll just flip back and forth. So the first one, Gina's bedroom floor is in the shape of a rectangle. It's 10 feet long and 9 feet wide. What is the area of her bedroom floor? Remember to find the area. You do length times width. Sorry, this is going to be sloppy. So it's 10 feet long, that would be your length, and 9 feet wide. 10 times 9 equals 90. Remember, when you have area, they are square feet because it's a whole block that could fit. Oops. You can either do roll to or the word ST. You could also have done this. What's that there? Feet. There was multiple choice. It should have been C. Next one, which equations are true? Select 3 correct answers was the big issue here. 7 divided by 7 is not 0, it's 1. 3 times 4 is 12, that was true. 10 divided by 5 is not 5, it's 2. That's not true. 18 divided by 2 is 8, yes, and 0 times 6 is 0. So you should have had B, D, and E. Okay. This one was the first one of the two-part questions. Third grade students took a total of 1,000 pictures for the yearbook during the school year. Ted took 78 pictures and Mary took 48. What is the total number of pictures taken by the rest of the third grade students during the school year? This was what got you. If you got this wrong, chances are you did not figure out the rest of the third grade. You figured out Ted and Mary together. So what we need to do here is figure out Ted and Mary and then subtract their number of pictures from the 1,000 to get the total that was left over. So, let's see if I can do it a meter this time. +72 plus 48. And then 20, so you had to do 1,000. Because that was your total number of pictures, minus 120. A couple of you had issues with lining this upright, and if you borrowed, you didn't mark it, and that came back to get you at 0 minus 0, 0. So borrow 10, 9, 10, 10 minus 2 is 8, 9 minus 1 is 8, 0 minus nothing is 880. So remember, you needed to fill it in with these bubbles down below, 8 here, 8 here, 0 here, and then 8, 8, 0 across the top. Now, part 2. Ella took 8 more pictures than Ted took. How many more pictures did Ella take than Mary? Okay, we need to go back, figure out how many Ted took. He took 72, so 8 more than 72 would be 80. We need to figure out how many more Ella took than Mary. How much bigger is 80 than 48? 80 minus 48. Should have gotten 32. That was to this one, part B. So 3 here, 2 here, then bubble it in 3 and 2. Okay. This one I don't think anybody got wrong, so nice job on this. Just remember that if they are all divided into equal parts, that means all the sections are equal. So if they had one where it was 3 sections that were equal and then a 4th section that was not equal, that would not be the right answer. Which one shows a quarter shaded? That would be A, C, and D. This one was half shaded, or 2/4. This one was 3/4 or 3/4. And this was also 2/4 or 1/2. Okay, this one was a little bit tricky for some of you. Which number line shows the correct location of the number 5/3? 5/3 is an improper fraction. When the numerator is larger than the denominator, it's an improper fraction. It's not right, it's not following the rules. That's why it's improper. So to figure this out, you need to figure out how much bigger than 3/3 is 5/3. 5/3 is 2/3 bigger than 3/3. So this would be in a mixed number would be 1 and 2/3. Because you have 3 here plus 2 more would have been the original 5. If this does not make sense to you, please look it up on Khan and watch their video. We have not quite gotten to this yet, so any extra help you can give yourself will benefit you. So now we need to find 1 and 2/3 on the number line. Here is the only one that is close to the number 1. And we see here that they split it into thirds. There's 1/3, 2/3, 3/3 would be the whole way to 2. So it should be D. Okay. Use the information provided in Part A and Part B for question 6. Cindy is finding the quotient for 27 divided by 9. She says the answer is 18 because addition is the opposite of division, and 9 plus 18 is 27. Okay, you had to identify the incorrect reasoning in her statement and explain in this box below. So basically her incorrect reasoning was that addition is the opposite of division. It was not. Addition is the opposite of subtraction, and multiplication is the opposite of division. Most of you did a nice job on this one. We didn't have any major issues with this. The only issues that we had on Part B were people showing 3 times 9 instead of 27 divided by 9. When it asks you to find the quotient of something, you are going to have to demonstrate division. So you could have drawn 27 circles and divided them into 9 groups. You could have done long division as a fact, however you wanted to do this. Someone wrote all the 9's multiplication facts, and while that was an explanation of your thinking, it doesn't match an explanation of how to find the quotient when 27 is divided by 9. So make sure you're answering the question exactly as they ask it. Okay. Mia placed the point P on the number line. You had to figure out what P was as a fraction, what the denominator represented on the number line, and what the numerator represented on the number line. To figure this out, you needed to see how many chunks the space from 0 to 1 was split into. This is not the same as counting the lines. If you count the lines, you'll count the line for 0 and count the line for 1, and you'll get a different answer than if you just counted the spaces. So 1 space, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The line was split into 6. P sits at the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So P would equal 5 over 6. There we go. 5 out of 6. In this case, they wanted to know what the denominator represented and the numerator. The denominator represents the total number of pieces that the line is split into, or the total number of segments between 0 and 1. The numerator represented where on the line P was sitting. So if P were down here at this mark instead, it would be 1/6. And the denominator would still represent the number of sections on the line. The numerator would still represent where P was. If you're stuck on this one, also watch the Khan video. It's one of those things that it might seem overwhelming, but once you do a couple more examples, it'll click pretty quickly. I don't think anybody got this one wrong. They have 4 tables. You have to figure out which ones have the same area. The only possible issue here would have been if you found the perimeter instead of the area. When you do area, you do length times width. 4 times 2 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. And 4 times 3 is 12. So the ones that have the same area are the ones that equal 12 square feet. And you could have justified that by saying 4 times 3 is the same thing as 3 times 4. You could have said that they were turnaround facts. You could have used the commutative property. However you wanted to justify that 3 times 4 is the same thing as 4 times 3. Okay. This one was a little bit trickier because in your explanations, many of you did not explain why both Tori and Leo were right. Several of you said Tori's right because 3 times 6 is 18, but you didn't take the time to go through Leo's point 2 and say that 6 plus 12 is also 18. To do this, you needed to evaluate both of the equations and say that they are the same thing. Okay. Model of a playground is shown. Find the area in square meters of the playground. Explain your answer using an equation or equations. The easiest way to do this was to draw a line straight down the middle of these 2 rectangles. 7 times 7 is 49. 9 times 6 is 54. Then do 49 plus 54. And you should have gotten 103 meters squared, or square really not many. Okay. And here you could have just listed the number sentences. 7 times 7 is 49, 9 times 6 is 54, and then 49 plus 54. You could also write it out in sentences. Jane bought 24 light bulbs. They came in packs of 4. How many packs of light bulbs did she buy? Well, if they come in packs of 4 and she bought 24 of them, 24 divided by 4 equals 6 packages. The only issue here was someone put it the whole way over in this column. Remember, you always start on the left. Even though it might seem like this is the ones place and the logical place to start, they want you to enter it like you read. So you read from left to right, starting over here, going this way. Same thing with your answer. Start on the far left side. Okay. Connie solved the math problem. 40 divided by 8 equals question mark. Which one could she use to check her answer? You just needed to remember that multiplication was the opposite of division, and that it would be 8 times whatever her answer was equals 40. If you did 8 times 40, you would have ended up with 320, which is way bigger than 40 divided by 8 could have been. So that should have helped you rule out D. I don't think anybody had issues. The issues with this one were, again, just not reading carefully. Some of you forgot to subtract, and that ended up getting you in the end. Mr. Khan had a total of 148 balloons. He has 112 white balloons and equal numbers of red, blue, green, and yellow balloons. To figure out how many red balloons he has, you had to take away the white balloons from the total. So you had to do 148 minus 112. That got you 36. That was not the final answer. You then had to divide 36 divided by 4 because he has equal numbers of red, blue, green, and yellow. He had to split 36 into fourths. 36 divided by 4. I know from knowing my math facts, but that's 9. So he had 9 red balloons. Then he gave away 8 blue balloons and 6 red balloons. He gave away 3 times the number of white balloons as red balloons. What was the total number of balloons Mr. Khan gave away? Okay. He gave away 8 blue ones and 6 red ones. 3 times the number of white balloons as red balloons. If he gave away 6 red balloons, then he gave away 3 times the number of white as red. 3 times 6 is 18. Then you have to go back and add 8 plus 6 plus 18. So 14 plus 18 is 32. That was a lot of steps. You had to think through that carefully. If I were you, I probably would have numbered my steps over to the side on here just so you kept track of what you were doing. Which arrow shows about how much water Gwen, oops, I skipped the line. Gwen poured 3 liters of water into a container. Which arrow shows about how much water she poured into the container? Find the 3-liter mark and find the closest one. This one showed you 3.5 liters. This was 2 3/4 liters. You need to realize that 2 3/4 liters was closer than 3.5 liters because it's only 1/4 away instead of 2/4 away. So it was arrow 2, which rectangle had an area of 24 square units. You could have either multiplied the length times the width, or you could have just counted the boxes in between. This one was 4 by 3, so that was 12 square units. This one was 6 by 3, 18 square units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 3 is 24. That's the big contender. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 by 3 is 27. The only one that was 24 is C. Nolan has 16 pennies in one jar and 16 pennies in one jar and 94 pennies in another jar. Uses some of the pennies to buy a pencil that costs 25 cents. What is the total number of pennies he has left after he buys the pencil? Show your work. You needed to first add 16 and 94 to figure out how many you started with. 16, 4, even if you think you did this in your head, some of you goofed because you forgot about carrying the 1 from the 6 and 4 being 10. But please write it out, even if you think you can do it in your head. 120. Minus the pencil that costs 25 cents. And again, some of you did this part in your head too, and you forgot that you borrowed. And I guess you didn't borrow twice. 11 minus 2 is 95. That's 5 and you know the cents. He had 95 pennies left, or 95 cents left after he bought the pencil. Then he saved some more and now has 187 pennies all in one jar. He finds 10 more pennies in his pocket. What is the total number of pennies Nolan has after he adds the 10 pennies in his pocket to the jar? This is as simple as it sounds. 187 plus 10 is 197. I don't think anybody got that. And the last one. You had to find a pattern here. The table shows the number of pennies Nolan saves each week for 4 weeks. What is the total? Oh, you didn't have to find a pattern. I would have made you find a pattern. They're not going that far. What's the total number of pennies Nolan saved during 4 weeks? All you needed to do was add those numbers together. So 18 and 40 is, I'm going to write it out so that I don't forget to carry a 1. 58, plus another 25 and 32. 58 and 32, 6, 90, and 25 more. 5, 72, 11, 115 pennies is how much you have saved during total time. Only issues here, I remember several of you wrote $1.15. Remember to always answer with whatever unit they ask. So if they ask for the number of pennies, they need to have an answer of 115 pennies. What is the least value that can be made with the digits 6, 7, and 5 using all the digits only once? A couple of you overthought this and thought that you had to have multiples of 6, 7, or 5 for some reason. You did not. They were testing that you realized that the hundreds place in the place value has the most value. So the least number overall would be 557. That was D. Then you had to do the opposite. Daniel says that the number with the greatest value, with the digits 5, 7, and 6, is only 657 because 7 is in the place with the greatest value. No, it's not. The hundreds place is the place with the greatest value. It should have been 765. When they say explain how you know, you pretty much have to write sentences. Even if you just say, because the hundreds place has more value than the ones place, that would have been fine. A couple of you just wrote the number, and that would not get you credit because you did not explain. Okay? An artist plans to paint a wall in a room. The wall is divided into 6 equal parts, with each part can be painted a different color. They buy brushes and paint for $94. Brushes cost $5 each. The rest of the money is used for 6 cans of paint. Each can of paint costs the same amount. How much does each can of How much does each can of paint cost? So you have to subtract the cost of the brushes first. 8 brushes at $5 each would be $40 in brushes. So now I'm going to go subtract 40 from 94. We have $54 left, and he's buying 6 cans of paint. 54 divided by 6. Another quick, easy to down math fact. So 6 times 9 is 54. Each can of paint would cost $9. Remember that the dollar sign goes in front of the 9, and someone wrote $9, and that was entertaining to me, but on the real thing, please write dollars. The artist starts painting the wall. The parts of the wall that look white are not painted yet. Which statements about the wall are correct? Okay, so I'm noticing this is split into how many sections before I even read their question. It's split into 6, and he has painted 4 of the 6. I know 4/6 is equivalent to 2/3. I'm going to think about that before I even read the option. Now, select the 2 correct statements. Each painted part is 1/4 of the whole wall. No, it can't be a quarter because it's split into 6. Each painted part is 1/6 of the whole wall. Yes, I agree with that. Each painted part is 4/4 of the whole wall. 4/4 is equivalent to 1, so rereading that statement as each painted part is 1 of the whole wall, that doesn't make sense. The fraction of the wall not yet painted is 1/6. No, I know because I said in my head that he had painted 4/6, but there are 2/6 left. The fraction of the wall not yet painted is 2/4, that's half. Or the fraction of, so that's not right. The fraction of the wall not yet painted is 2/6. Yes, I just said that in my head and out loud again. So I'm going to mark B and F. If it says select the 2 correct statements, that is a for sure given that there are 2 answers that are right. So if you go through this and you think in your head, I only get 1 answer that's right, you're wrong. You need to go through them again, because if it says select 2 correct statements, there are certainly 2 correct statements on the answer lists. And that's all. Overall, I was really impressed with how well you did on this. You did a very nice job of explaining your thinking. Again, the biggest things that I'm concerned about are making sure that you slow down enough to make sure that you're reading all parts of the question, and that if it says explain, you explain in words. And the last thing is making sure that you bubble in these guys correctly. Remember, it has to go in the bubbles and in the box. Have a great night.